What's up, everybody? It's your freaking boy, the Charm City Champ. Welcome to MAP Game Clique, the official weekly video game podcast of MAP Technologies. This week, our very own FGC expert Darth Wabafet interviewed TMNT Cross Justice League's very own ToBeMoreCrazy. They're talking about TMNT Cross Justice League, the work it took to make it, favorite crossover fighting games, and more. So you're going to realize, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you're only going to get a portion of this week's episode. To get the full episode, you got to be a patron of MAP Technologies. If you're interested in that, to listen to the rest of this podcast and to get even more benefits like the ones on the screen, go to patreon.com/MAP Game Tech to check it out. Just $3 a month, depending on what you want. And now to MAP Game Clique.
Gentlemen, welcome to another episode, a special episode of the MAP Game Clique. I'm Darth Wabafet. We have Charm City Champ on producing today, and we have a special guest with us today, ToBeMoreCrazy. Woo!
Hey guys,
what's going on? So today we are going to be talking about a good game. So wait, I'm gonna hold off and say that one last. But we're also talking about fighting game crossovers. But the main subject of today is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles X Justice League. It's a good fighting game. Y'all need to play it. And I have someone here who has put his heart and soul into making this game. So without further ado, let me introduce to you ToBeMoreCrazy. Woo! Yeah!
Thanks everyone for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Honestly, I've been coming to MAP for a while now, and it's really an honor to be on this podcast. I've seen you guys do some amazing stuff, so thank you again for having us. With everything going on in this upcoming week, hey, if I can in any way, shape, or form help spread the word about you guys, I'm hoping this will help with that. So thank you again for having us. But I represent a team. I'm not the only guy, yes. So
of course, naturally. So we're going to be talking about a lot today about fighting games, old school fighting games, and the Teenage Mutant Turtles. So are we saying, is it just Teenage Mutant Turtles X Justice League or just Versus?
So it's Cross Justice League. There's a reason for that I've forgotten a long time ago. But the easiest thing to do if you're trying to abbreviate the name is just call it Cross Justice League. I think that's probably part of the reason, because saying XJLT is kind of a weird thing to say, but Cross JLT makes more sense. Again, it's one of those things. It's just over time, that's how it's kind of evolved.
Okay, so Cross Justice League.
Yes.
So, everybody always asks you, how did this start? Like, where in the multiverse did you guys just think, like, you know what, this is a good idea, let's do this?
So a lot of why this all came together is kind of just like a community of people who really cared. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of like passionate SNES fans who were like, hey, can you cover this game? We'd started off as the Super Fighting Discord, and it was designed specifically to be for Ninja Turtles tournament fighters. That was all it was about. And eventually, again, we had so many people who loved SNES fighting games. We ended up adding Sailor Moon, and we added, there was no shortage of games that were beloved, like Gundam Wing Endless Duel, Ranma 1/2. You have people who were big fans of Killer Instinct, and so eventually we branched out and added a whole bunch of other games. And just by happenstance, it happened to be one day that we saw a Justice League combo video released by one of our favorite people, Zool. Okay. He's actually a really influential person in general as well. He actually did. He's done a whole bunch of combo videos for Clay Fighter, a bunch of like lesser known SNES fighting games, nice. And he just made a combo video for Justice League Task Force, and I think it just started the ball rolling. We were talking about it, like if we were gonna make a game, because since day one we'd always been about let's update Ninja Turtles tournament fighters, and we did succeed at doing that. We made TMNT Tournament Fighters Championship Edition, which added new colors. It made a tournament default. That was really the goal from day one, was to give someone the best possible experience in tournament fighters. And of course, when you do something like that and you have so many talented creators in one place, you get a group of people together that eventually say, hey, why don't we just make a game? And Kamikaze, you know, I've been a fan of his for a long time. He's been extremely influential in you know, like indie game scenes. He's done a lot of creation. I mean, if you've seen the documentary about Cross Justice League, you'll know he's made hundreds of characters, and he's designed games. He's worked with other people. It hasn't been just me. And, you know, I mean, again, it started out as me and Kamikaze, and of course with help from T5SD. He goes by the name of Homer. We all kind of worked together and collaborated. They had been working together for years. They've been friends for forever. And I just kind of went to their stream one day and started talking about, hey, you know, you guys are cool. Would you want to, like, you know, I love the fact that you guys have pulled all these old games into the Mugen engine and like recreated them so accurately. And I wanted to try and help them as much as I possibly could. And I think they picked up on that fact that I was like, I'm very much a fan of these games. As much as you guys are a fan of this game, I'm also a fan. So they kind of pulled me into their group and said, let's make a game. And then we got very lucky. We had a bunch of people who just, you know, they were also big time developers. You know, they said, okay, we'll help you guys out. We'll play test your game. We'll do all this. And you know, it kind of snowballed after we got all of these like extremely talented people together. It was kind of a no-brainer. Let's just see how far this goes. And just more and more people just kept coming to the project. So yeah, it started off in the Discord. I mean, I figured that's
it seems like a lot of things are starting off in the Discord. Yeah. Man, you said tournament fighters. Yeah. The last time I played tournament fighters, wow, that was going all the way back middle school, man. Like you know, Casey Jones with the little, you know, bomb there and stuff like that.
The Genesis version.
Yeah, I think I liked it a lot because I don't know why. It was the color swaps.
Yeah.
You know, you got like
the clone turtles. Yeah,
they were evil turtles, and it's like, oh, and then hearing like the victory instead of KO, it was shell shock.
Yeah.
You know, that was so cool to me. So that's one thing I will always remember is just that shell shock part. I don't know why. I just thought it was a cool game.
It's a surprisingly fun game. Mm-hmm. It breaks down so badly that unfortunately, if you're even vaguely good at it, the game is just ruined. But for that very small percentage of time where you're just like learning the moves and having a fun time, you're like, oh, these are cool characters. You know, I kind of could. I mean, we've tried our best to kind of merge the games together. I mean, at this point, we have Casey, we have April, we don't have Sisyphus, and we don't have Man Ray. But that said, everyone else has joined in at this point. So I think Tournament Fighters, you know, it's a nostalgic game. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, as you said, they played it when they were in middle school. They played it when they were even younger than that. I mean, the game came out in 1994, so I mean, it's a little old. But you know, I mean, me specifically, I remembered fondly going and playing in the Blockbuster Championships. Like, I actually was there to play in those. Like, I remembered being a kid and being like, oh my god, Blockbuster's having a tournament. Like, I love Blockbuster. I love fighting games. Like, can I get in on this? And yeah, so it's funny. There's I'll probably elaborate on it a little bit more later, but you know, a lot of what caused all these games to be under one roof was that, you know, I just was very passionate about, you know, Tournament Fighters was step one, and then, you know, I love Clay Fighter too. It sounds weird, like people make fun of Clay Fighter, but I always just kind of like these weird games. So.
It was another old game. I think it came out on Genesis, not so much as Super Nintendo. Eternal Champions. Oh
yeah, no, yeah. You know, I was never fortunate enough to have a Sega CD as a kid, but now, yeah, I like Eternal Champions. I think it's funny. The first one is kind of like very avant-garde. It's not really designed to be a combo game. You're just supposed to like punch each other and know how to do special moves. Very, very different from what you would get nowadays. Mm-hmm. But you know, they later went on to the Sega CD version, and that became a combo fest. Yeah. So it's like, you know, I mean, there was a clear evolution in that series.
So as far as like evolution goes, how do you come about like, you know, we always, as a fighting game player myself, you see something on the game, you're like, that shouldn't hit. That needs to hit. Why can't this combo? Like, so how do you guys like go about like trying to like keep things fair?
I think the biggest thing that's been a help in this process has been having actual testers, like having people who want to play a game and will take the opportunity to play test the game for us. You know, I mean, again, you can try to balance a game. That doesn't make it fun. Games can be plenty balanced, but you're not necessarily like, oh man, I can't. The mentality that Kame has always kind of given was, if it's not so broken that you can't enjoy it, you might as well embrace it. Like, if something's broken, try to make everyone else better around that brokenness rather than just straight up remove something that someone might have enjoyed.
Right.
And, you know, when you talk about balancing the game, I mean, this is the second version of the game. The first version of the game, I can assure you, the original TMNT Cross Justice League, great game. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But it's a little bit more busted. There's no question on that one. Turbo fixed a lot of the problems that game had in terms of unfair character balance. Like, you know, we actually had a lot of tournaments for the first one, and you know, Vicky Viper, a couple other big names played the game, and they of course gravitated towards what worked, and we found out very quickly some characters were extremely strong, and it wasn't like they were unbeatable or anything. It's just like, you know. You say to yourself, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to play this character that's complicated, or am I going to play this character that's going to win? For a lot of top players, they just want to play what's going to win.
Yeah, that's true.
Not me necessarily. I mean, but you know, I mean, that's kind of the logic behind it. And if you're talking about balancing, again, if you play any of Kame's other games, you'll see it right there. Like, the whole concept isn't to make everything as fair as humanly possible. It's just to keep it fun.
Yeah, keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed
Interesting's better than boring.
there is one character in the tournament fighters that a lot of people were using. I was young, I didn't know, but Wingnut.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's my favorite character. So yeah, I mean, in 1994, to have a character that has air dashes, that has dives, that has air fireball, I mean, what is that?
Right?
Who does that sound like to you? It sounds like ST Akuma. Like, I mean, the character clearly has some very strong tools. I mean, I think that, you know, if you look at TMNT Cross Justice League, there are plenty of characters that are more powerful than Wingnut. But again, you know, you can't. The whole point of the game was to keep the feel of tournament fighters. Right. Not so much Justice League Task Force, because there's some serious problems with Justice League Task Force. But that was always the goal, was to try and make it feel as close to a sequel as humanly possible. I mean, say what you will about the graphics looking the same. You know, I mean, if you replaced all the sprites in this game tomorrow, you could just say, "Oh, this is Tournament Fighters 2." It wouldn't even be a question. It'd be like, "Yeah, this plays similar enough that it feels like it could have been made by those devs." That was our goal. Like, from day one, it was to be, what if this was the theoretical sequel from 1995 to Tournament Fighters? Like, that was our goal. And yeah, I think we succeeded. I think the game feels at least enough like an old school game to trick most people.
So, y'all put Justice League characters in here. I saw Superman, Batman, Flash. Are there any? I didn't get a chance to see their whole roster. I saw Darkseid.
Yeah, of course. Wow. Darkseid is the main villain of Justice League Task Force. Okay. So he for some reason decides to build robotic copies of everyone. Again, when you talk about flimsy plot for a fighting game from the 90s, Darkseid doesn't come to kill them. He just decides to build robot doubles of them. I say what you will, but maybe they could have thought of that a little bit harder. But yeah, no, it's especially considering, you stop and think about it. How many villains are there in the DC universe? I think there's enough villains you could probably get away with it. You could say, hey, I mean, Justice League Task Force, you got Cheetah, you got Despero, though technically at that point in the comic books, he was actually a hero. Oh, they made him a villain again just so they could have another villain, and Darkseid. So, that's something actually we struggled with this game, was we need more villains. We need more evil people, because everyone's a goody two-shoes. Right? I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, even like on Genesis version, who's evil? They had to make clones. Like there's no villain characters. Shredder, Karai, I guess War. Yeah, War is evil.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty much
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I guess that was how it was back then. You had that mandate. You had to put a certain number of characters in. You had to have your standard 8 characters, minimum 8 characters. And that was where, at least for us, that was part of the challenge. And that's why, if you notice in Turbo, the original TMNT Cross Justice League, it was actually just, characters from the original game. We didn't really, we had the idea of April, and April was, of course, a replacement for Asuka. But, again, that doesn't add another villain. So for Turbo, we decided, we have this ability, and it's very 90s, take the same sprites and make an evil version of them, but instead of it just being, oh, it's a clone of the Flash, now it's Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom.
It's like, okay, there's already a character who's literally just a palette swap of Flash. Why didn't you put that character in the game? And Bizarro as well joined the cast, because again, we were looking for people who could be, new characters and not cost us a small fortune.
No, those I saw somebody play Zoom in a tournament.
Yeah.
Does he have he has different moves than the Flash?
Yeah, he's completely different.
Okay.
He's got same sprites, obviously. I mean, he's based off the same character, but Kame went out of his way to make him play completely different. He's more like a guy character. Okay. Whereas Flash is very much a zoner, and like he's got like I don't want to say he's got like 100 hands, but he's got like a move that picks you up off the ground and allows you to restand people. And he's in some ways that's actually kind of like Mortal Kombat, but
kind of like his Injustice.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You can't completely ignore Injustice. Yeah. You want to give them something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of at least I think the logic was let's try to like pay tribute to all these different things at the same time, but then still try to make it feel like it's a wholly similar thing to where it was. Again, like I said, we wanted it to feel like Konami and Blizzard teamed up. I always say this. I mean, you look back on it now, it's like, wow, what a team up now. Blizzard and Konami releasing a game together. But back in '96, it probably wouldn't have been that weird. But yeah, no, we always wanted that intent was to try and make it feel like a game from 1996. And I think like I said, I hope we achieved that.
Nah, you guys definitely achieved that. So you were mentioning old school fighters, like we were talking about that. Do you have a favorite old school, like?
Well, I mean, it's hard for me to not say tournament fighters. Right. I mean, obviously, I've dedicated
other than tournament
hundreds and hundreds of hours to tournament fighters. I've traveled across the U.S. for tournament fighters. Favorite old school fighters. Jeez. I think it's kind of a hard thing to decide what's your favorite, because especially if you're anything like me, you enjoy variety. I love fighting games for what they are. I don't necessarily love one specific game because it's like I'm really good at it or anything like that. If I had to say, and also what's old school? Yeah. Let's be honest, at this point, right. Injustice 1's old school. Like, if we're talking from the 90s though, I'm a big fan of like World Heroes Perfect. Oh. I've always been a big fan of like Double Dragon. Basically any that SNK made or ADK made back in the day was really, really good. Maybe that's part of the reason I have such an eclectic taste when it comes to fighting games, is because I grew up in a time where you really didn't have brand loyalty. You just went to the arcade and you played what was there. Yeah. It's like, oh, people are playing this. I used to be obsessed with Tekken Tag Tournament. I'll still play Tekken Tag Tournament to this day. Yeah. Mark of the Wolves, that's another one that's a huge game for me. Jeez, trying to think favorite. Yeah, Mark of the Wolves definitely up there. I would go as far as to say that if you had to like give me like a desert island pick, it would either be an SNES game like Gundam Wing Endless Duel, or it would be something that was from the early SNK library. Those are the two big categories.
I guess I would probably have to. Well, I was always a big fan because my cousin had all the games.
Ooh, that's always nice.
he had all those Marvel superheroes versus Street Fighter, X-Men versus Street Fighter. Yeah. And as a musician, I fell in love with the music.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people's like, oh, how can you listen to that? Man, what? Rogue's theme, was always my favorite. I don't know why.
I don't know if you're friends with those people anymore. They
I
don't like X-Men versus Street Fighter's music. I might not be their friend anymore.
I don't know. I mean, it got to the point where I even liked how it came on, like, the little Capcom symbol. Winners don't do drugs.
Oh, man. The Q sound. The Q sound.
Yeah,
you cannot argue with that.
But I love the art style. The art style was amazing. It was just like, come on now, you got Gambit and you have Ken on the same team, Cammy and Rogue. Like, who would have thought that this is possible?
Yeah.
And this is exactly what happened. So
we spent a lot of time in arcades loving these games. So to like I said, it's hard to imagine someone being like, nah, I'm not a big fan of X-Men versus Street Fighter. Or I mean, I could see maybe saying Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. By that point, they had unfortunately kind of worn out their welcome, but I have very fond memories of the X-Men Children of the Atom Machine being packed. Like, there was huge lines for all of that stuff because it just was new. Again, you have this console mentality nowadays where it's like, okay, you just play the newest thing. But back in the day, you were at the mercy of the arcade. You went to the arcade and you played what was at the arcade. It didn't matter what it was. You just wanted competition because that was what made arcades fun.
Right.
Nowadays, of course, there's still a lot of that in terms of, like, you want to play what has people to play against. I mean, that's something that I think every indie game has struggled with. We're not Capcom, we're not SNK. We don't have millions of dollars to invest in a game. You look at games like Them's Fighting Herds and stuff like that. Like, amazing stories. Like, these games have done stuff that even a decade ago would have been impossible. Like, people tried to do this and it just didn't happen. You had Dojin games from Japan that were all extremely well made. I mean, you think about it, Melty Blood is probably the only game from that time frame that really was able to turn itself into a staple. So
French Bread, right?
Yeah, French Bread. Yeah, I remember way back in the day downloading the original Melty Blood demo and being like, the music in this game is insane. I will play this game because the music. I had friends who didn't even like fighting games. They just liked Melty Blood for the music, so they would play Melty Blood. But I think, again, it does kind of come down to you have to have like your preferences and being able to pick something out and enjoy it. When you say you're a big fan of the Versus series, again, I can't argue with that. Who would be silly enough to say they don't like the Versus series? Like, that's just, it's a classic.
yeah, definitely classic. And I saw you mention some indie games. There was one indie game that I was introduced to when I went to what was it, NEC in 2017. Punch Planet.
Oh yeah, so that's another one. A game that's
shout
like,
outs to those guys who made Punch Planet. Like, they showed me the game. I'll never forget. They showed me the game a day before, and then they had like a little tournament.
Oh yeah.
Like the next day, and I got second place. I was
nice.
like, yo, like, this is. But the game was amazing, and the guy, he really loved Street Fighter. Like, his name escapes me. I'm sorry, but
it's not always easy to remember.
Yeah.
There's only 400,000 fighting games now, so yeah, I guess I can understand.
But he was a big fan of Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
And Third Strike.
Yeah.
And so he had like a lot of different things like parries and hops and stuff like that. I mean, in the game, again, music, I mean, as a musician, that's the first thing that jumps out to me as, a fighting game player is the music. Because you're in the heat of battle, you're playing against somebody, and then the music goes to another level. So, but then the artwork that they had on it,
it just looks amazing. Yeah, this game looks really, really good. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Again, I always hear the criticism that people are like, oh man, the tournament fighters and Justice League sprites aren't the greatest in the world. I'm like, I mean, I like to think everything around that looks really good, so it kind of works. It's funny, Kame actually he's announced it by now, but he's making a sequel to Best of Best. It's a very, very bootleg game, extremely bootleg game, but the joke is all the character sprites are absolute trash garbage, but the presentation, he's like hired all these people to help him out with it. He's got amazing music for it. And it's like, the graphics are very, very important. And Punch Planet is a great example of a game that looks amazing in spite of the fact that it's an indie game. Right. But, I don't know. It's never been something I've ever been super concerned about is how good a game looked. I feel like games, when you're in the heat of the moment, the last thing you're thinking of is, man, this character looks stupid. You're fighting. Like you're fighting. You know what I mean? Like the thrill of battle cancels out However, yeah, I mean, look at games like footsies. I mean, they're as simple as they can be, but I can tell you right now, there are people out there who get extremely hype over that game, and it's not because, oh man, this is a mind-blowing visual experience.
It's like, no, you whiffed that move. I Raging Demoned you and won. Yeah, I recently played footsies. Like, I played it again probably like 2 weeks ago, and I mean, I got destroyed, but I'm like, wow, like, I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't worrying about the graphics. I'm worrying about if I can get you with this medium kick real quick, you know, so.
Remember all your third strike setups.
Oh.
That's what that game is. How many third strike parry setups do you remember?
Man, I'm not even going to talk about third strike. For some odd reason, third strike has really helped me with my fundamentals, because that game will punish you if you do not know what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, and plus on top of that, there's, I don't want to say eons, but people have been playing for so long. You know, I mean, I actually, I remember getting it on Dreamcast and being so excited to have that game at home. And the funny part is, it wasn't in any arcades. It was like the first one of those games that you're like, it's a Capcom game that isn't in arcades. That's kind of weird.
Itself as an arcade.
And then eventually arcades started getting it. It's funny, like I remember it came out on Dreamcast, and all my friends played that, and then we realized it was a terrible port. Like, it was just awful port. And then it was in our arcades finally. We were like, oh, people are finally, like, I can actually go play this at a place up the street from me. Like, that's pretty cool. And there was a huge scene for it. I mean, again, the only reason that it wasn't popular was because it was a Street Fighter 3 game. No one liked Street Fighter 3. Everyone hated Street Fighter 3. It had nothing to do with whether or not Street Fighter 3 was like a fundamentally flawed concept. It was just Capcom fumbled so hard with the series that, you know, Third Strike was an anomaly. It was this shocking. I mean, I'll say this. I love Third Strike, and I've practiced that game for hundreds of hours, but nowadays the only way I'll play it are if I'm like drunk with my friends, or if someone's like, I really want to play you, like I need to play you specifically, and I'm like, okay, fine, that's no big deal. Or if I'm at an arcade and there's no other games except Third Strike, I'll be like, okay, yeah, you know, I'll play some Third Strike. And the only characters I play are Remy and 12. Oh, okay. And it's not because the other characters aren't fun. It's just that's the only way to make the game exciting. Exciting, because it's like, you know, if you catch that X copy combo, you know that's hype. You know that's hype. Yeah. Or if you're playing Remy, people always think Remy's some trash garbage. So it kind of like it's fun to use
Remy. Like, come on,
it's funny how back in the day people would talk about characters sucking and stuff like that, and it was less, oh, this character is terrible, and more like, I just don't want to put the time into learning them. And it, you know, it's 1999, so we're over. Oh Lord, now I'm feeling super old. We're literally past 20 years. Are we at 20 years for Third Strike? I don't know. Oh my God, no, it's not quite. Probably like 17 years or something insane like that.
All I remember is when Third Strike came out and I got it on Dreamcast, the first thing I did was go to GameFAQs to see if somebody made a strategy game.
Yeah. GameFAQs was the best. That was, you know, I hate CJC because there's a story to this. I hate CJC because I only ever wanted to make 2 FAQs. There's only 2 games I ever cared enough about. So I was like, these games are weird. No one's ever going to write an FAQ for this. So I'm going to go ahead and make it myself. And both of them got rejected, and they never gave me a reason. And I was like, you know what? I wrote this up. It took me hours to write this, and you just are like, nah, we'd rather have nothing than what you have.
Make the little cool heading in the beginning.
Yep, man. VR Troopers, what happened? Why couldn't you take my VR Troopers guide, CJC? I don't appreciate that. That's not okay.
So you heard about the Capcom fighting collection?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely buying that day one. Nice. And the only reason I'll be honest with you is because at this point everyone keeps talking about how it's a test to see if they'll bring out more games. I don't even care about new games anymore. I literally do not care at all. But I feel like if I don't do my part, I mean, I bought Darkstalkers Resurrection. I bought JoJo. I mean, every re-release I've bought just to help the community. It's never like for me. I mean, I could play any of these games. I'm not going to say, hey, Fightcade is the absolute best option ever or anything like that. But, you know, it's certainly a great way to get your experience in. Some of the best players in the world are on there. Yeah, and it's like, definitely. How do you compete with that? Like I respect Capcom for wanting to do something like this, so I'm willing to put in, I mean, what is going to cost me $30? Oh wow, okay, $30. I mean, it's funny in retrospect, I would spend $30 going to an arcade, so I look at it like, okay, well, this is what I would have spent in an arcade. So I'll go give Capcom my money and hope that something better will happen because of that.
I'm just interested to finally play Red Earth at home.
Oh yeah.
Even though I could have did it before, but still, like you said, this is really just a lot of people like you want to help the community. It's like, okay, I know I can buy it for myself, but I also want to get more people, because every time you come to Mac, you always tell everybody like, hey, I got a game.
Yeah.
Boy, come in and try it. You don't have to, but check it out. And I think that's amazing, because I really feel like a lot of people need to start doing that, because I know sometimes as a fighting game player, you play a lot of people and you get cool with a lot of people, but there are still some people that are at the door who want to get in, but they don't know how.
Yeah.
And I noticed with you always are like, you're a friendly person, a friendly face.
I hope.
You are, man. Like you are. I mean, you always come. You're like, hey, y'all done fighting? All right, go check it out.
I try my best to bridge the gap for people, because I do feel like, I mean, again, this is a fan project. If a person doesn't have any interest in Ninja Turtles, are they really going to be interested in our game? I hope, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, if I wasn't as big a fan as I am of tournament fighters, I don't know if I would necessarily be like going out there and pushing it as hard as I do. I'm sure there are people out there who feel the same way I do, who are like, I love this game, but they bottled up. They say, okay, no big deal, I'll play what's popular. I just got to that point in my life where I'm like, no, I'm going to play the games I want to play, and I'll play your game too. Yeah. But it's not going to stop me from playing what I want to play.
Hey y'all, thank you for watching and or listening to MEP Game Clique this week. Don't forget, if you want the full episode, to go to patreon.com/MEPGameTech for the full episodes of all our podcasts and even more benefits. And make sure, if you want to see these live, to go to twitch.tv/MEPGameTech and hit that follow button. And if you're feeling real, it's how I see. Hit the sub button. Thank you all. See you next week. Peace out.